Today is a real treat for us. The treat that we have today is that we're going to actually hear the mayor talk about his life journey from the faith perspective. And so, good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to Lehman College. I want to thank the staff and the faculty at Lehman for allowing us to be here today, and all of our team members from the Office of Faith-Based and Community Partnerships, all our faith leaders, our colleagues, Bishop Salgado, who is the Assistant Commissioner of Moya, who is here as well. And thank you all for being here with us today. Today we have two emerging leaders who are faith leaders who are going to be talking to the mayor about his journey. They'll have a conversation as the mayor shares his faith journey that has informed his life of public service as a NYPD officer, as an elected official, and as the mayor of the largest city in the United States, and most religiously diverse city in the United States of America. And so today we'll hear from the mayor how his faith has sustained him through the past 3 years. He'll talk about how it inspired his hope and healing for a divided city, and what relevant role the faith-based partnership plays in his administration. And we're just gonna have this conversation around all of those areas today. So today we're very, very, thankful that you all have joined us today. And also too, we'll take some questions from Brother Andy King at the end, and also Tony Carnes, who is the publisher of A Journey Through NYC Religions. And it's a non-sectarian, non-partisan web magazine founded in 2010. He has walked all of the 6,374 miles of street in New York City. Is that so? That is correct. Let's give him a hand for doing that. All 6,374.9 miles of street in New York City. And he is going to be asking some questions as well at the end. All right, so we have a very good treat for us. We have the Reverend Roger Lee Hambrick from Green Pastures Baptist Church, who's from the Bronx, who is going to give us our first wonderful blessing of a song as we begin.
I'll be committed to you. I'll never leave you. Nothing in this world can make me walk away. No matter what life may bring, I'll be by your side. No matter what you face, you won't be lonely. Because forever is a long time. That's how long I'll love you. That's how long I'll love you. Forever, forever. That's how long I'm gonna love you. That's how long. Forever.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Reverend Roger Lee Hambrick from Green Pastures Baptist Church. And now please welcome to the stage Pastors Victor, Pastor Tashra, and Mayor Eric Adams to the stage.
How are you?
Well, I'm really good in being here with you. I don't think this is a surreal experience like somebody said in the media. But I think you have a really real experience when you wake up in the morning, you meditate, you pray. Maybe you could give us a little peek at what did you do this morning or previous morning, and what did you pray and what did you meditate on?
I always thank God. I always call out the names of my ancestors to thank them, because absent from the body is present in the spirit. It's amazing that we read that part of the Bible, yet we believe that when someone leaves us physically, that it is still with us spiritually. The science has shown energy could never be destroyed or produced. It would always exist, and if we're made up of energy, then my mother may be gone physically and transformed into a next level. As paper transforms into smoke, it doesn't mean the smoke has gone away. It's just that you have to look for it in its new existence. So we need to see and feel And I always give thanks to my ancestors. I give thanks to God for being in my life and allowing me to be a servant. And I just take a moment to reflect to see what am I supposed to know to get through today? What am I supposed to be prepared for? And just prepare myself for it. Because, you know, being a mayor of the city, anything can happen at any given day, and you need to be prepared for what it brings. And so this morning, for example, I knew I was going to the precinct to speak to the police officers who was assigned to Officer Islam's precinct. And so I asked God to give me the words to give them comfort and to show them how we respect them as a profession. And that was my call this morning as I went to the 6:30 roll call. But that is the start of my day. I start my day and I end my night with giving thanks to God and giving thanks to the ancestors.
The city is so much. It used to be called Sodom and Gomorrah, or the secular city, and now it's something different because there's faith all over the place. There's faith in the mayor's office. How do you describe the change from those days to these days, and what kind of new leader do we need for these days?
So true. People are looking for authentic ways to deal with their pain. Because people are hurting. You know, the soulful ballad says, if you take a close look at my face, you'll see my smile is out of place in the tracks of my tears. And you know, as I walk through the streets and I listen to some of the terminology that people use even when they disagree with each other, it has become a very challenging way to disagree. People are afraid to disagree, to engage in conversation like this. You know, there was someone at the vigil we had yesterday as we talked about the 4 lives that we lost. 5 in total. And as we were walking out, people was using the level of vulgarity. It was just unbelievable. When you are hurt, you want to hurt. And, you know, I think that it's imperative that we just really start to think about some of the things we say and what we do to each other. Because you can't fight for a cause when you're trying to destroy a cause. It just doesn't work that way. If you're fighting to stop the death of someone, families, then you can't be calling for the death of someone's families. If you're fighting to make sure that we have housing for everyone, you cannot be blocking housing on your block. If you're saying that everyone has a right to shelter, you cannot be standing in front of a homeless shelter saying, don't bring it here, my fellow brother and sister. And so I just think that we need to acknowledge the fact that we are in pain. And we need to learn how to express that pain from a place of healing, not from a place of destroying.
I have one final question. Thank you. Your day is sometimes spent on campaigns. And you said one time you'd like to take a godlike approach. What's the godlike approach to a political campaign? I think we're all wondering that.
Just be authentic. And a perfect example, I was campaigning at Brownsville Old Timers Day over the weekend. And this young man came to me. I saw his friend was saying, basically, you know, go talk to him, go talk to him. I saw him out of the corner of my eyes, and he finally came over to me, and he says, you know, Mr. Mann, I said, you know, you from me, Eric? He said that I was arrested on Rikers Island, and you came to my high school graduation on Rikers Island. And you stopped and you spoke to me for 20 minutes. And then later you came back and got rebaptized with the inmates. And that inspired us so much. Because I believe that if Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John was walking the earth right now, they would have been at his high school graduation, and they would have gotten rebaptized on Rikers Island. That's God-like. And that is how I live my day every day. I ask myself, what would God do in this situation? And what would the disciples do in this situation? That goes through my head all the time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
One of the things I admire about your journey is that you are open and honest about how faith plays a part in your decision making, in your daily walk. You exercise and exemplify what that looks like. How do you, in your decision making with regard to the city, right, address and approach what some would still call the separation of church and state?
I find it challenging. You could do that on paper, but you cannot do that in your life.
That's right.
That's so
You
good.
know, I am
That's so good. That's
you know,
good.
man has many rules that they want to write, but the actuality of implementing and the implementation of those rules is different. Someone wants to write a law that you're not allowed to smile when you see a little baby. No matter how much you can write that law as much as you want,
Right.
you're going to smile.
Yeah.
You know, so I believe that the doctrine of our Constitution talking about separation of church and state, but then we need to take in God we trust off our dollar bills. We need to stop saying, so help me God, when we swear into office.
Yeah.
You can't have it both ways. It's either one or the other. This is a country of believers in different areas. It doesn't mean that one should be put in place and be disrespectful for others. I've been in mosques, synagogues, Buddhist temples, churches, Sikh temples. The desire to do something greater than yourself is crucial. And I think that we've had many events with our faith-based communities, and they've come in, they prayed for the city. I don't think we would have gone over or survived what we had to deal with in the city if we didn't have our faith leaders. Pastor Moroso has done an amazing job of really respecting all of our faiths and allowing our faith to be at the center of what we're doing. So I know what is written on paper, but I know what's in my heart.
Amen.
And my faith is in my heart.
I know it's not church, but I had to say amen on that. So speaking of your heart, we want to journey back just a little bit to when you were a young boy. You mentioned your mother, and that is, she was a pillar, of course. If you are talking to the young men and women in the community who they believe in something, but they're not sure. One of the things I'm seeing, I'm an adjunct at City University of New York, teaching oral presentation. And one of the things that I've seen in the classes is that they don't know what they believe. They're not sure what they believe. And that could stem back to the home. It could stem back to the many options or access to information. I think we are in an overly consuming or over-consumptive environment. What do you say to those incoming freshmen, those middle schoolers, those high schoolers that are not sure if faith is even necessary?
You know, so funny you said that. Last night I had a dinner with a group of people who want to do a huge concert in the city. And there was a young lady, while I was sitting at the table, I would say she was 20-ish. And I looked over and saw she was wearing a cross, a large cross, and it was very visible. And I said to her during the conversation, I said, I noticed you have a cross on. I said, would you share your faith? And she says, no, it's just jewelry. It's just a piece of jewelry to me. And, I just found that very fascinating, that, what we had done with our young people. And we have to be honest about it and not try to ignore it, hoping that, okay, it's all going to work itself out and young people will be young people. That is just not true. Because I don't want to sound nostalgic, But when I would have, bad thoughts, it would stay on the block. If I did something dumb, it would stay within the neighborhood. Our young people, social media has changed the game. It has just changed the game.
Yeah.
It can be a tool used for good, or it can be a tool used for harm. The number of suicidal ideations that our children are experiencing, the behavior that they're seeing and duplicating on social media. That's why we make the decision to take phones out of the schools.
Yeah.
Because social media has just truly controlled the lives of our young people. And there was just that report that came out the other day, the amount of time we spent on it, and it's shaping our opinions, it's shaping our thoughts. And so we have to figure out some way of using that device to lift up our faith.
Sure.
If we could do it in a way that would capture their attention, we could turn a tool that is abusive to a tool that's useful.
Yeah.
But I think that really understanding the needs of our young people, and some of our houses of worship have really figured out how to attract our young people. I get really excited when I go into a house of worship and I see a great deal of young people that are there, because that's the natural order of things.
Absolutely.
That the new must fertilize, the old must fertilize the ground for the new to produce.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't have young people in our houses of worship, that's a real indicator that we're not fertilizing the ground of our faith.
For sure. And just, can I stick to school one more question
Yes.
with regard to the environment of school, public school, private school. I know we have many faiths, and we may speak of a God, but God is defined objectively to many, right? But speaking from where I've been born and raised, I have to quote Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way that he should go. And with that said, what is your position on accommodations, faith accommodations in school? So whether it's dietary needs, etc.
I think it's crucial.
Yeah.
We've done things around halal food in school. We've done things around those who wanted to have kosher food in school. We do it at our events. I think faith comes first, and your religious beliefs are paramount, and we need to respect that, not dismiss that. And we have continued to lift that up, and we're going to continue to do so as long as I'm there.
At what age in your life did God become real? You know, like we hear about God in our churches, our synagogues, our mosques. But in your life, in your journey, when did you go from saying, yeah, you know, God there, to saying, whoa, okay, like I've seen Him work in my life? At what age in life, you know, was it in your young adult years? Tell us a bit about that journey.
God was always present in my life. Like I said, I came from a family. My younger brother was preaching. My sister married a preacher.
Wow.
You know, my family has always had faith. And I think all of us, sometimes our faith will wane. And then it reaches a point where it becomes real, and real to you, not based on a tradition that you were raised in, but when it becomes real to you. I think it was probably during the time when I was arrested as a child, and there was truly a presence of God. But I'll never forget years ago when you know, the vision came to me that I was going to be married January 1st, 2022. That was,
We talked about that in the back.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was 30-something years ago.
Okay.
Wow.
And you know, the message was clear. Tell everyone you know. And I used to go around telling everyone. And people thought I was on medication.
Now you're gonna be mayor? Oh wow.
Yes, I would, you know, all the police officers that knew me from the Guardians, 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement, they would say, this is all this guy talked about. That, you know, he's going to be state senator, then he's going to be borough president, and then he's going to be mayor. You know, that was the way it was laid out to me, and I would share it often. And I remember when Bill de Blasio got elected, I remember when Marty Markowitz, or when I won borough president, and at our inauguration, I shared, it was one of our events, I forgot exactly what it was, I shared that I am going to, it was actually state senator. I stated that I'm going to do this for a few years, for 4 terms, and then I'm going to become the borough president, and then I'm going to become the mayor. And it's because I believe God. I believe God. And I moved in that area of faith and destiny and stay committed to that. And there was a purpose that I believe God wanted me to be mayor, because my life was so imperfect that he wanted people who felt as though where they are was who they are. And it is not. So he wanted that young man who was arrested to see that your mayor fell in hard times and was arrested. He wanted that person who had learning disabilities to know your mayor has learning disabilities. People who are in homeless shelters or on the verge of homeless, your mayor was there. And so I think God wanted people, not only in the city, but across the globe, that it's not perfection, it's dedication and it's commitment, and a living example of that. And so that was when I think that as I saw the progression, that I knew that what God plants inside you is real. But you have to believe. You know, I think far too many people don't believe. Believing is not just reading. If God is going to get you through, he's going to get you through. And God didn't bring me this far to bring me this far. It is, just being blessed. Being blessed. I mean, the impossibility of extending to be the mayor of the most important city on the globe with all of those frailties is but God. But God. And I don't quite understand how people don't see when they look over their journey and see how impossible for them to have arrived there, that is not because it's not who they are, it's because who God is. Yeah. And you have to acknowledge that. And I acknowledge that fully. And I'm excited about being a believer, because there's a level of fearlessness that comes with being a believer.
That's right.
It's, if you're sitting back and God is at the wheel, you could just relax. So as all of these trials and tribulations that come my way every day, all day, there's just a level of comfort that I have. That, listen, God got this, man. My GPS is on. My God positioned satellite is on. I'm just...
Your God positioned satellite?
Right.
I like
We
that.
have to, that's hashtag.
Gotta trademark that.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to understand. They need to understand and stop looking so negative about things, because we're here for a purpose.
That's right.
And we're gonna fulfill that purpose. And it is not, this is such a good conversation, because it's not what I want, it's what God wants. Because there's a whole lot of things we want, but God knows what we need. And so, saying, well, I want a Lamborghini, but why? Man, you better drive that Toyota. So it's really about, think about the things we want, instead of, what do we need? And I'm focused on, God got this. God got this. You said something, just to go again, why the power of God. Someone just met with me last night and said that, Eric, people don't know your story. They don't know what you do every day. You need to find a way to let people see you up when you're up at 5, 6 a.m., meditating, praying, going through the day, and how many hours you put in, 12, 13 hours a day. And they just told me that. And so for now, you to sit here and say,
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's why sometimes if you want to hear God, we have to shut up. You know what I'm saying? You know, just, you know, and sometimes you go through things that God is saying to you, you need to pause for a moment.
This is true.
You know, a dark place is not a burial, it's a planting.
That's so good.
And in order to receive your blessings, sometimes you have to just be still.
And no.
I'm telling you, it is unbelievable how many of us are just so busy that we don't pause for a moment. You may go through a healthcare scare. You know, my diabetes, you know, on the verge of losing my sight and my nerve damage. That was a wake-up call. That was a wake-up call that you have to change your life. You know, be still, you have to change your life. And I look at every moment. If everyone in this room would look at every moment in their lives that it was a dark moment that they were able to transition through, you would see you came out better. You came out better. And so the Eric, people really don't know the Eric. I lived through sound bites in a depiction of a media, particularly print media, that was never elected in the first place. And they did everything possible to prevent me from being elected. And then when I was elected, they made sure that we'll never get the story out. And I can't tell you how many times I speak to people at town halls, they say, I didn't know that. I didn't know what y'all did around housing. I didn't know the records you did around jobs and all of those different things. So our story has never been told. We have to tell our stories direct to consumer. And that's the challenge that we must overcome. Because I'm a big believer that we should allow our faith-based institutions to build higher. We should allow them to have the vacant lots on their blocks. We should allow them to be able to acquire property. We did an amazing project with Ebenezer Plaza in Brooklyn. We have been leaning into these faith-based buildings because it's a better return on our investment when the faith-based institutions build the housing and carry out these projects. It's a better investment.